Something strange happens when you turn 30. Maybe you've noticed it already. The patience you once had evaporates. Things that never bothered you before suddenly make you furious. You find yourself having thoughts that shock you, dark thoughts, angry thoughts, selfish thoughts you would have never admitted to in your 20s. You might think you're having a crisis or losing your mind. But according to Carl Jung, what you're experiencing is exactly on schedule. Your shadow isn't getting stronger because something's wrong with you. It's getting stronger because you're finally ready to face it. Today, I'm going to reveal Jung's groundbreaking discovery about why the shadow self becomes more powerful after 30, why this is actually a sign of psychological maturity, and, most importantly, how to work with this intensified shadow instead of being consumed by it. If you're over 30 and feeling like you're becoming someone you don't recognize, this video will change how you see yourself. If you're under 30, this is your warning and your opportunity to prepare. The first half of life deception. To understand why your shadow explodes after 30, we need to understand Jung's map of human development. Jung discovered that life naturally divides into two halves, each with completely different psychological tasks. The first half of life, from birth to around 35, is about building your ego and establishing yourself in the world. You're figuring out who you are, what you do, where you belong. You're building a persona, that social mask that helps you succeed. During this first half, you're so focused on fitting in, achieving, and building that you unconsciously repress huge parts of yourself. Every time you chose to be good instead of authentic, every time you smiled when you wanted to scream, every time you said yes when you meant no, all of that got pushed into your shadow. Your 20s are about accumulation, accumulating not just achievements and relationships, but also shadow material. Think about it. In your 20s, you had energy to maintain the facade. You could party all night and still show up perfect. At work, you had the stamina to be whoever you needed to be. Repression was easy because you had the vitality to maintain it. Your shadow was there, but it was manageable. Like a small child, you could easily control. But Jung noticed something profound happens around 30. The psychological energy that was flowing outward into building your life starts to shift inward. This isn't a crisis. It's a transition as natural as puberty. You're moving from the first half of life to the second half, and the rules completely change. Why 30 is the shadow turning point? Here's what. Jung discovered that explains everything. After 30, your psyche shifts from expansion to integration. You've built the life. You've created the persona. You've achieved the things. But now your psyche asks a terrifying question. Is this all there is? This question isn't depression. It's your authentic self knocking. All those parts you buried to succeed, they want their turn. All those feelings you suppressed to be acceptable, they're demanding recognition. Your shadow has been patient for 30 years. Now it's done waiting. There's a biological component. 2. Your brain finishes developing around 25, but psychological maturation continues. By 30, you have enough life experience to handle deeper truths about yourself. You've failed enough to know perfection is impossible. You've succeeded enough to know achievement doesn't equal fulfillment. You're psychologically equipped for shadow work in a way you weren't at 20. I saw this vividly with Marcus, a client who came to me at 32 in complete crisis. In his 20s, he'd been the golden boy, Harvard Law, prestigious firm, perfect girlfriend. But after 30, he started having violent fantasies about destroying his office. He'd sit in meetings imagining flipping tables, screaming at partners, burning his diplomas. He thought he was going insane. He wasn't insane. His shadow was emerging. For over a decade, Marcus had repressed his authentic self to become what others expected. His wild creativity, his need for freedom, his disdain for authority, all shadowed. After 30, his psyche said, enough. The violent fantasies weren't signs of psychopathy. They were his shadow's desperate attempt to destroy the false life he'd built. The 5 ways. Your shadow intensifies. After 30, Jung identified specific ways the shadow grows stronger in the second half of life. Understanding these can help you recognize what's happening and why it's actually healthy, not pathological. First, decreased energy for repression. The simple truth is, you don't have the energy you had at 25. Maintaining a false persona requires enormous psychological energy. By 30, you're tired. That exhaustion isn't just physical, it's your psyche refusing to waste energy on pretense anymore. When you don't have energy to repress, shadow material surfaces. Second, accumulated shadow pressure. Imagine pushing a beach ball underwater. The longer you hold it down, the more pressure builds. By 30, you've been pushing down authentic parts of yourself for decades. The pressure is explosive. This is why midlife crises seem so sudden and dramatic. It's 30 years of pressure releasing at once. Third, life experience reveals the persona's limitations. By 30, you've seen enough to know your persona doesn't protect you from pain. You did everything right, but still got hurt. You played by the rules but didn't win. This disillusionment weakens the persona, allowing shadow material to break. Through fourth, biological and hormonal shifts. This isn't just psychological. Hormonal changes after 30 affect mood, energy, and emotional regulation. For women, approaching perimenopause can intensify emotions. For men, decreasing testosterone can trigger identity questions. These biological shifts reduce your ability to maintain psychological defenses. Fifth, existential awareness intensifies. After 30, you become acutely aware of mortality. You realize you won't live forever. This awareness makes authentic living urgent. Your shadow contains not just your darkness, but your unlived life. The approach of death makes that unlived. Life scream louder. The dangerous shadow symptoms after 30. How do you know your shadow is intensifying? Jung documented specific symptoms that emerge when the shadow grows stronger in midlife. These aren't signs of mental illness. They're signs of psychological transformation. Sudden personality changes that shock everyone, including yourself. The nice guy becomes aggressive. The people pleaser starts saying no. The responsible one acts recklessly. These aren't breakdowns. They're shadow breakthroughs. Intense attraction to people who embody your shadow. You might find yourself drawn to people you would have judged harshly in your 20s. The conservative lawyer attracted to the wild artist. The controlled woman drawn to chaos. These attractions are your shadow, seeking integration through projection. Dreams become more vivid and disturbing. After 30, shadow dreams intensify. You might dream of violence, sexuality, or scenarios that appall your waking self. These dreams increase because your psyche is working overtime to process emerging shadow material. Physical symptoms with no medical cause. Jung noted that unintegrated shadow material often manifests as physical symptoms. Chronic pain, digestive issues, insomnia. When doctors find nothing wrong, look to your shadow. The body holds what the mind rejects. Existential depression despite external success. This is the classic shadow symptom after 30. You have everything you're supposed to want, but feel empty. That emptiness is your shadow self, starved of expression, demanding recognition. The integration path. Working with your intensified shadow. Now for the crucial part. What do you do when your shadow gets stronger after 30? Jung was clear. You can't go backward. You can't re-repress what's emerging. The only way is through integration. First, recognize this is development, not deviation. Your intensifying shadow isn't a problem to solve. It's a stage to navigate. Like adolescence, it's messy but necessary. You're not falling apart. You're breaking open to become whole. Second, create containers for shadow expression. Your shadow needs outlets. If you've repressed anger, find healthy ways to express it. Martial arts, intense exercise, screaming in your car. If you've buried creativity, start creating without agenda. Give your shadow safe spaces to emerge. Third, examine your projections with new maturity. After 30, you have enough life experience to own your projections. That person who triggers you, they're showing you your shadow. But now you're mature enough to see it and work with it instead of just reacting. Fourth, question every should in your life. The shadow intensifies after 30 because you've built a life on shoulds. Should be successful, should be married, should be happy. Each should buries an authentic want. Start asking, what do I actually want? Fifth, seek depth over image. The first half of life is about building up. The second half is about going deep. Stop asking, how does this look? Start asking, how does this feel? Your shadow contains depth your persona lacks. Real stories of shadow integration after 30. Let me share how this plays out in real life. Sarah hit 35 and suddenly couldn't stand her perfect life. She'd spent 15 years building a flawless image, devoted wife, supermom, successful consultant. But after 35, she started having affairs in her mind, fantasizing about abandoning her family, feeling rage at her children's needs. Her shadow wasn't evil, it was starved. She'd repressed her need for independence, her sexuality, her wildness. Through shadow work, she didn't destroy her life. She integrated these parts consciously. She took solo trips. She rediscovered her sensuality with her husband. She set boundaries with her children. Her shadow didn't want to destroy. It wanted to be included. James was the opposite. Wild in his 20s, he'd built no stable life. After 30, his shadow emerged as a desperate need for structure, commitment, depth. The party boy's shadow was a responsible man. He'd repressed his need for meaning in favor of endless freedom. His integration meant embracing responsibility without losing his spontaneity. Then, there's Elena, who at 32 started having violent dreams about her mother. She'd been the perfect daughter, calling daily, visiting weekly, never setting boundaries. Her shadow was full of rage at this enmeshment. The dreams weren't telling her to hurt her mother. They were showing her the violence she was doing to herself by not individuating. She had to integrate healthy anger to create healthy boundaries. The gift of the strengthening shadow. Here's what most people don't understand. Your shadow getting stronger after 30 is a gift. It means you're ready for the second half of life. The half about meaning, not achievement. About depth, not surface. About authenticity, not acceptability. Jung called this process individuation, becoming who you truly are rather than who you're supposed to be. Your intensifying shadow is the fuel for this transformation. Every shadow quality you integrate makes you more whole, more real, more alive. The anger you've repressed, it contains your power and boundaries. The selfishness you've denied, it holds self-care and authentic desire. The wildness you've buried, it guards your creativity and aliveness. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your wholeness in exile, getting louder after 30 because you're finally strong enough to handle it. Practical exercises for shadow work after 30. Let's get practical. Here are specific exercises for working with your intensifying shadow. The trigger journal. For 1 month, record every strong emotional reaction. Who triggered you? What specifically bothered you? What quality in them do you judge? That quality lives in your shadow. After 30, these triggers intensify because your shadow is stronger. The opposite day. Once a week, consciously embody your opposite. If you're always serious, be silly. If you're always nice, Practice saying no. If you're always in control, let yourself be messy. After 30, you need these shadow expressions more than ever. The Life Review. Write your life. Story in decades. What parts of yourself did you leave behind in each decade? What did you sacrifice for success? After 30, these sacrificed parts demand integration. The Dream Dialogue. Keep a dream journal, but focus on shadow figures, the people you fight, run from, or judge in dreams. These are shadow aspects. After 30, dialoguing with these figures becomes crucial. The projection map. List everyone who really bothers you and why. Be specific about their annoying qualities. Now own each quality. I am also ... This is harder after 30 because you're more invested in your persona, but also more necessary. The warning and the promise. Jung's discovery comes with both a warning and a promise. The warning: ignore your intensifying shadow after 30 and it will eventually explode. The midlife crisis isn't optional, it's developmental. You can have it consciously through shadow work or unconsciously through shadow possession. But you will have it. The promise: integrate your shadow after 30, and you enter the second half of life with power, authenticity, and aliveness most people never achieve. You stop living from your persona and start living from yourself. You trade the exhaustion of pretense for the energy of authenticity. I've seen 60-year-olds who never did this work. Bitter, rigid, shadows so dense they can't see past their projections. I've also seen 35-year-olds who embrace their intensifying shadows, vibrant, integrated, living with a depth that inspires everyone around them. Your shadow. Integration begins now. You're over 30 and recognizing yourself. In this video, know this: your intensifying shadow isn't a curse. It's your psyche's invitation to become whole. Every judgment, trigger, and dark thought is a doorway to integration. The question isn't whether your shadow will intensify. Jung proved it will. The question is whether you'll work with it consciously or let it work on you unconsciously. If you're under 30, start shadow work now. The more you integrate before 30, the less explosive the transition. But don't think you can avoid it entirely. Your shadow will intensify. It's as natural as any other life stage. Remember Marcus, with the violent office fantasies? He didn't quit law or destroy his life. He integrated his shadow need for creativity and freedom. He moved to a firm doing social justice work. He took up extreme sports. He gave his wild side conscious expression. His fantasies disappeared because his shadow was no longer screaming for attention. Your shadow gets stronger after 30 because you're strong enough to face it. Because the life you built in your first half is stable enough to support deep work. Because your psyche knows it's time to stop performing and start being. The intensification of your shadow after 30 isn't pathology. It's psychology. It's not breakdown. It's breakthrough. It's not crisis. It's chrysalis. You're not losing your mind. You're finding your soul. What shadow qualities have intensified for you after 30? Share in the comments. Sometimes recognizing we're all going through this helps normalize the process. And if you know someone over 30 who's struggling with personality changes they don't understand, share this video. They're not crazy. They're just ready for the second half of life. Your shadow has been patient for 30 years. Now it's getting stronger because you're finally ready to meet it. The question is, will you? Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.